So even before they enter into, or we enter into community,
Yep.
what do you think is the question that people are asking that motivates them to become a part of a community? Even if it's just a pickleball group that meets on Saturday morning.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoweh's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful ends for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome, friends and allies, to the Exploring More podcast. Michael Thompson here, hanging out with SJ there. And
got our new set.
Yeah, man. Caleb, come here, Caleb. Can you...
come out behind them.
Yeah, stand right here, bro.
I'm behind the
stand
thing.
Next to me. Come here.
There he is.
This is Caleb Richwine, our producer and engineer, and he's our utility man. Yeah. You wouldn't know he was a punter, but he can suit up, play any position.
Really can.
Yeah. Well, kicker.
I'll claim it.
Yeah. So anyway, we have been redesigned,
revamped,
and love that around Zoweh when somebody says, "I got an idea. I got a couple ideas." So anyway, we let Caleb in here, and this is what happened. Yeah. So new table, same old microphones. Yeah.
I don't have to turn. We don't have to turn to look at each other either, which is great. We can just
so refurbished sign
across the table.
Man, it looks good. It looks good. So well done, bro.
Thank you.
Yep. Get back in your seat.
Let's do it.
Get those headphones back on.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today, because we're talking about why community is dangerous.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, bro, because I submitted a different title, and if we're not going to title it this way, I got to get it in. So why is community dangerous is what we settled on. That's what everybody's going to see. But really, I'll call it now the subtitle is community sucks.
Yeah.
Community sucks.
For sure.
Yeah.
I know you're more of a, absolute guy. Like, it's not if, it's when. It does.
Yeah. And so, and so with that subtitle.
So what do we mean by...
I just didn't want that plastered all over the internet and podcasts. Yeah. Those Christian guys are saying that. And so anyway, so
why is it dangerous?
It's dangerous, right? Why is community dangerous? So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. I mean, you were a firefighter, right? And there's firefighting.
Yeah.
And there's fire prevention.
Yes. I spent a lot more time teaching and promoting fire prevention than I did actually fighting fires in my time in the fire department. And I think that's a great application to this whole idea, that it's not a matter of if things go they go sideways. They're going to go sideways. So I think where this all might evolve to a little bit, SJ, is just us talking again a little bit about redemptive community. Yeah.
But let's get back up after the idea that community is dangerous. And I've been thinking about this for a little while since we were going to talk about it. And so we have our handy computers with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let me just read the definition of community. I think this is Webster's, maybe. Man, where's my glasses? There it is. All right.
Thank goodness for Zoom.
I know.
On your phone.
Yeah. So come on around now. I can see it well. So community, a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common.
Okay.
Right. Example.
So that's like location or interest.
Yes. Right. Geography, or a common, like the example they say here is the scientific community.
Right.
So then another one is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result fellowship. Now, this is the dictionary. That's a pretty churchy word.
Mm-hmm.
A feeling of fellowship. I would say, if I had the liberty to fix this, a feeling of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
A feeling of connecting.
I wrote down connection.
Yeah, with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Right? Attitudes, interest, and goals.
Common.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a feeling, though, of belonging, of connection, right? Of support. Those are, I'd trade those out for fellowship any day. So there you have it. That's kind of let's have a working definition so we can now talk about community a little bit. And that plays nicely with the idea that, man, we're all a part of a lot of communities when you think about it.
That's true.
Like what are a few of yours?
Well, I think immediately of my neighborhood. Right. We live on a dead-end street, and it's a relatively small street. There's not a ton of houses. I'm not in a big neighborhood like you are.
Yeah. That means you pay nothing of HOA.
No HOA fees.
Yeah, that's exactly what neighborhood, dead-end street.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, the connection to our neighbors, especially the ones that are, right around our house.
Yeah.
I think of that as a community, when our neighbors, Dave and Jody, shout out to Dave and Jody, go on vacation.
Yeah.
I put their trash out for them. And when we go on vacation, they collect our mail and put our trash out. I mean, so that's the first thing that comes to mind in the terms of community. And I think, too, there's when I think of community, I think of where do you live?
Yeah.
That's one of the first things I thought about. And then there's my community of friends, our Wednesday group, and I'm part of a Monday night group, and that's a community.
Yeah. I mean, we're back to common interests, right? There's that's a geographical location tech. You can be a part of a group or a chapter of something and have your meetings. Yeah. Small groups certainly around.
I fit in with the first responder community.
Right. So now we're talking about a whole other space. You can be an alumni of something,
right? A
veteran of something, and you can be a part of that community.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What about you? What are yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think Zoweh has a community.
Yeah, some of ours overlap.
Where there's local and our team and our extended team, and then there's the Zoweh Nation, the Zoweh Global. There's
truth to that.
That
podcast has been downloaded in 190 something
so interesting,
countries.
Man. Speaking of that, so I'm pulling in my neighborhood, and I pull in behind one of those Volvo sedans, Volvo SUV. And on the back is a Zoweh sticker.
Get out.
That's what I said. I was like, wait a minute.
Who's that guy?
Who is that?
Yeah.
Followed him, and they came all the way to my house because it was Nyanga picking up something from Robin.
Okay.
But she lives over near Briar Creek. But there's the identifying piece.
Right.
That identifying part of community, what our logo, might be a part of that, or the sticker. Yeah. Or, guys who, wear their veteran hats, from when they serve. They're a part of a really, an important community. So, my basketball guys for 25 years, we've been playing on Saturday mornings and some other occasions. I mean, that's a brotherhood. That's a community.
Sure is.
That's a tribe in which there's common interest. You belong. There's some guys that make it now and then, but there's a lot of guys that are in the faithful. I mean, I think that's another part of what marks community. They're not visitors. They're on the roster.
Right.
They're on the roll. But, they're maybe not as involved in the community as much. So we were talking about Mookie Betts, and so,
it hurts.
Red
still.
Sox Nation, we go like, come on, man.
Yeah,
what are
got
you
traded
doing?
to the Dodgers.
So, anyway, so there's fans fans of teams, fans of they make up sometimes a community. I mean, you go to some college football games, and I know Caleb, played college football. I mean, there are the faithful in the community, the alumni, the tailgaters. You sit in somebody's seats that's a part of that community. They wonder, why did Bob and Sally give you these seats?
Right.
The season ticket holders.
The season ticket holders. Yeah,
right. They're their own community. So anyway,
yeah.
I think we're hitting this pretty hard. But there's a lot of. So my point is, we live in a lot of communities.
Yeah.
We live in a faith community. I mean, even Zoweh is
the thing that binds us together.
Yeah, and Zoe's a part of even something more in that space. I mean, from genders to sexuality to the dog park you go to. There's a community.
Yeah, we just started playing pickleball. There's a huge pickleball community.
I'm getting more and more comfortable admitting that. Actually, I've been one of the hold up.
It's so much fun, bro.
It is.
So
it really is.
It really is a workout.
It's really
too,
fun.
Especially
But
when it's 90
I'm not ready to be a part of that community yet.
Okay, all right. We'll graft you in.
So no, Robin and I had a ball. So anyway,
she wants to know when we're playing doubles. You and me and Robin and Sherry.
Yeah. What I love about pickleball, because I've played it with Robin, my girls, Anders, and just it is a great equalizing game. Like nothing against my kids. I don't know how many podcasts they even listen to, but
right.
I mean, thankful for participation awards and things that some of my over the years, but the girls can play pickleball. It was pretty fun. Like they had some skill.
It's a game you can engage in, and you don't have to be really truly an athlete.
Well, I wasn't going to say that. But,
I will say it because you really don't have to. I mean, it just depends on, not that this podcast is about pickleball, but to the point, there are maybe some challenges associated with getting into or becoming a part of a community. Yeah. And this one, like you said, the game kind of levels the playing field, and you can tell right away. I played last weekend with a guy that went to university on a tennis scholarship.
Oh, some of those guys
you can tell
they can play
when he's playing pickleball.
Oh yeah, or ping pong.
I mean, yes, exactly. I'm going to crush you.
Well, and you don't get to have that big giant swing. It's
you do,
really,
but it just kind of goes
not as often. Yeah, it doesn't put a. But anyway. To the point of pickleball, last thing is. I kind of still have it in that area of ping pong and kickball and Red Rover. It's just kind of one of those
cornhole.
Yeah, Foursquare. Right. It's a recess game. But now they've got professionals, man, and it is
fastest growing sport in the United States.
Yeah. So everybody who's like putting thumbs down on exploring more because of pickle. I love it.
Yeah, some of you are putting thumbs down because you're like, I'm an athlete, know, and
so
you do have to be an athlete.
I got pickleball paddles for our anniversary, which
you told me that, and I thought you were joking.
No, Robin got them. So I caught the hint, and we're in.
Okay, so back to community,
so back to community. It's. The pickleballers are excited to talk about it. There's a common interest.
They are.
There's a space in which, so many are stepping into it that they're all kind of learning together in the last few years. So anyway, it's just right on point with this idea of community. Now, I want to, if that's what community can be, again, the title of this, SJ, is why is community so dangerous, right? And if, common interest and common goals and rallying around something, brings people together, then the challenge is it's still people coming together, even though they share those things. There can be contention, strife, hurt feelings,
messiness, as we refer to it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so it is dangerous.
Yeah. So even before they enter into, or we enter into community.
Yep.
What do you think is the question that people are asking that motivates them to become a part of a community? Even if it's just a pickleball group that meets on Saturday mornings.
I'll take my big proposal here rather than definitive. Where do I belong?
Right. That's exactly what I.
How do I fit in?
Mm-hmm.
That's
will someone see me?
Yeah.
Right.
Will I be invited, included? All those things that we've talked about in other podcasts. The ingredients of love.
Yeah.
I mean, where could I be loved in this space, or at least liked, and at worst not rejected,
right? Not
shunned,
right?
Was talking with a guy the other day about his journey with scouting. I said, really, I didn't think maybe that's just great to hear that you had 7-8 years in that.
Yeah.
I said, did you like it? He said, not really. I went 8 years.
Were you doing it because your mom made you do it, or like?
And the answer came out. I fit in. I had a place.
I needed. Yeah. I wanted a place where I fit in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The didn't have anything special or spectacular to say about the Scoutmaster or the other kids. I mean, but in that space, that was the attraction. That was the hope, and that was 8 years.
Yeah.
And I've talked to other scouts or former scouts who are. It was so awesome, and that we did this, we did that. He just didn't go into any of that, so it made me think, how was that? And he said, it was okay. So anyway, choir, band, sports teams,
even basketball, football during high school. Why'd you play football? What did you love about it? Well, my dad loved it.
Yeah.
So that's why I played. Or whatever it would be. There is some different motivations. I think especially as maybe not, I don't know. I'm rethinking my statement before I even made it, but I wonder if when you're younger, you're not as clear as to why you're involved with different communities, right?
Oh, you're kind of taken there. You're kind of put there.
Right.
That's a great point.
You're not going to sit every Saturday on the couch, so you're joining Boy Scouts.
Yeah, and if your parents tailgated at that team or that team, and you were part of that, you probably inherited some of the community generationally.
Right. That's right.
Or went to that school that mom or dad went to. And I think about our faith journey. I mean, it's a huge part of my story. I inherited most of my faith, and I mean that word on purpose.
Yes.
And then I owned my faith later, like even in my 30s, when I kind of went through some pretty significant reformation of my own heart and my own journey with God. But that community, was okay. It was just something that we did and something we did growing up. And I think it's a great point that can have an effect or have bearing on your community, and I mean, even
how do you feel about
it? And all the way to the disastrous kind.
Sure.
Third Reich.
Yeah, gosh. You took it to the end.
I mean, I'm talking about it. You talk about, cults.
Yeah. Gosh.
Communities of, that kind of sense. Jones. What was that? Was
Jonesboro.
Yeah, Jonesville, Jonesboro. But
the cult where they all
drank
suicide.
The Kool-Aid literally and committed suicide to be with each other in the next community.
Right.
Amazing
what people will do to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves.
That's my point.
Yes.
It's so what we're talking about, and that's why it's so dangerous. Why it's so powerful to belong and to want and some of our, like one of our favorite 80s shows, right? Cheers.
Oh man.
I mean, it's the bar. No,
walk in the door. No,
I mean,
exactly.
They're a community, right? And I mean, there's a drug community.
there's a recovery community.
There's a darker community, right? There's just there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so, so it's why it's dangerous. I want to take a break.
Yeah.
And then we've kind of set the table to come back and explore a little more on, I want to turn into the scriptures a little bit and look at this in the second half of this episode. So we'll be right back on the Exploring More podcast on Dangerous Community.
Every man has a kingdom. Not every king rules well. Like a living piece in life's checker game, you are moving across the board towards your time of greatest authority and impact. But what kind of king will you be? In King Me, I want to guide you through the 6 stages of the masculine journey and invite you to walk with God into healing encounters and validating experiences. Through this, we can learn to wield love as our greatest weapon and provide a kingdom where hearts are free. Every man does have a kingdom. Not every king rules well. You can. It's your move.
Now available on Amazon. See kingmebook.com for more details.
Welcome back to the Exploring More podcast, where we're talking about community and how dangerous communities can be. And so pressing into the scriptures, let's look at this a little bit. I know you have a passage, but I mean, literally Israel is a community.
Sure.
In the Old Testament, this is God's chosen. This is God's set apart, and it was supposed to be a community of God followers to show what it looks like,
right,
to relate to God and walk with God. And so I'm not saying it was an experiment that went badly. I'm saying it was tough rowing. I mean, they have had, not only in the Old Testament are they persecuted, and in this, relationship with God, but also, struggling. Yeah. And we'll get
not
into
struggling.
We'll get into the New Testament as well in just a minute. I want to look at what you have, but in the biblical sense, I want to just also set on the table that God is community. There is Trinity.
Yep.
There is a loving relationship in which Father, Son, and Holy Spirit all belong, all adore each other, all love and support and move with each other.
Right.
So just to be image bearers is somehow to be connected or tied to community. To community.
Yeah.
Where belonging and connection and purpose can be found. And again, I think it makes it a very dangerous space when that's the representation that's supposed to be there, and people feel very much something other than belonging, connection,
right,
and commonality. So that's where it gets really dangerous, really tricky. So, but yeah, just what did you find? We were looking at community.
Yeah, Acts 2. I mean, fellowship of the believers, 42, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone that had needs. I mean, this is sort of the almost utopian community, right?
Right.
And I think it's in here because the suggestion would be that with alignment with the Trinitarian community that you were referring to, you can do this every day with your neighbors.
Yeah. So you set it up so well, man. Because what I wanted to, I'm glad you picked that. I'm glad we're going there because
the other one I thought of was Matthew 18. Wherever 2 or more are gathered in my name.
Yeah. Which is an interesting passage. It's about conflict.
Yeah.
That passage is about conflict, not prayer.
It is.
It's about conflict.
It is,
which is so prevalent in community. So back to, I want to be Matthew 18 up to Acts 2. So why I was laughing was because starting a community is pretty easy.
Yeah. Right.
Let's get the same. Let's get the same shirts.
Location, interests, and a connection.
So Acts 2.
That's all it takes.
I am not taking anything away from Acts 2.
Okay.
But I want to say, well, of course it's awesome.
Yeah.
They're in the first season together, the first seasons together. This is, post Pentecost, and and everybody's
all doing cool stuff.
No, it's like when you're dating somebody. I think that's when your truest self really shows up, and then about 3 months later, your false self starts to take back over, and it's like now it's in the game. Because my best foot forward in pursuing Robin, that's me. I'm not tricking her. I'm actually being my best version of me. But then here comes the selfish guy. Here comes the idiot. So I think that in community that's just multiplied. Mm-hmm. And I think it's why it becomes so dangerous, because we can put best foots forward. Mm-hmm. We can share our apples with the community. And then we're like, hey, why doesn't Sharon and Jeff, they're not bringing any of their oranges.
Yeah.
And comparison comes in, and who's giving more. Mm-hmm. And, now we get into, the Declaration of Independence and when the country was new, dripping with newness, it sounds like it was a pretty great place to live. We look back at it that way, but holy crap.
No, it was a pretty
America
really hard place
America was a hard place to live.
Sure. Yeah, I even think about pickleball, man, because you can go into that and with comparison.
That is such a turn.
Wasn't it a turn?
From biblical to pickleball.
And to the Declaration of Independence. But when I stepped onto the pickleball court last weekend, it was the first time I had ever played. Mm-hmm. Now, I played tennis in middle school and my freshman year of high school. I didn't go to college on a scholarship or anything, but I played, so I understand the game, right? And then had to learn the rules of pickleball. They're a little bit different. And then my first game, I'm playing against tennis scholarship guy. You know what I mean? On the other side of that. So immediately comparison comes in. Yeah. Rather than seeing like, hey, this is an opportunity for me to get to know some new people, for sharing it and to learn a new game and to have some fun, right?
Yeah.
Instead, in my head, I'm going, okay, how am I going to match this guy? Or this guy's going to blow me off the court, or he's going to embarrass me. And all of that comparison, like we've said before, comparison leads to inferiority or superiority, and neither are good.
Yeah.
Right.
So what makes me smile again about you want to ruin something fun, keep score.
Yeah.
Oh, man. As soon as it's competition, it changes things.
Yeah. We got rid of the game Monopoly in our house. Like we have... It's just exiled.
Yeah.
No, we do not play Monopoly.
Have you seen that meme of that kid who goes, doot, doot, doot? Oh, he's seriously crying. He's got to pay.
Lands on boardwalk or something and has to mortgage something to pay.
So funny.
Pay his taxes or something, and he's crying.
It's great.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, but that game can.
That's when I learned. That's where I think Monopoly is where I first learned to cheat.
Yeah.
I'm 7, 8 years old.
I think there's a community my brothers recovering Monopoly cheaters.
Yeah, I need to look into that. But and I remember I wrote about it in King Me so I would if I won, he needed to pick up the board.
Oh, right.
If he won, he needed to pick up the board. Somehow I'm going to get something out of this. Man. Competition.
How come Michael's always the banker? Why is that?
That's man.
Yeah, that cut a little too close to home for some listeners.
That does remind me of that game. But where we were headed with that was how the point of all of that really is how community can be hijacked, and it can be comparison,
right?
Somebody cheating. Wait, we established the rules.
Diminishing you.
We established the rules. This is in our civil codes, civil liberties, civil codes that we've decided you can't do this. Drive on that side of the road. Everybody drives on this side of the road.
Right.
So in a community of drivers, right? And not all are necessarily good at pickleball or driving, right? But that's how this thing is. It's just volatile.
Yeah.
It's just fragile. And so therefore, why we call this, it's such a dangerous proposition, because community like Acts 2, it doesn't take long before Paul's writing a letter to the Galatians. You foolish Galatians, what's happened to you?
Right.
You know, all the letters in the New Testament are going to communities who are in some way, shape, or form, needing encouragement, exhortation, some accountability, some correction, and some validation as well.
Sure.
You know, but instruction at least, because they've, from Acts 2 to Galatians 1 is like, what happened?
You're not the
What's
same
going
people.
on?
Yeah.
You know, Go ahead. You had a thought?
Well, I just was wondering what, okay, so to reverse engineer that a little bit, right? When you're joining a community, what would you say are some of the major risks associated? We've talked about some of them, I think.
Yeah.
Rejection, diminishment,
Yeah.
But when I say, joining a community is dangerous, it's risky, what comes to mind for you?
Well, most communities and structures within them that I know have, some kind of leadership.
Right.
So some coordinating.
Right.
Coordinators.
The HOA or the
somebody's
local,
in charge of something.
Something. Right.
And
your Saturday basketball game. Yeah.
There's a commissioner, and that's typically me dividing up the teams and that kind of thing over the years. But I think that's one of the things that it's a great question. So, the aspects of a community are, those responsible for setting some direction or welcoming the new people, or, establishing that common goal and common interest and the attraction of, welcome. I mean, I love that you brought up the recovery community, and I love that community. I personally really love that community for what our partnership with it looks like.
Sure.
Because we at Zoweh love to create environments and resources for people to connect with God and each other. That environment of recovery exists so that there's support there. And those weekly meetings and the honesty that they're after.
Yeah.
So I'm answering your question still. What are the tenets? So dishonesty would be a huge problem.
It'd be a huge risk
to community.
Right. Yeah.
And somebody
that leadership is being dishonest with you about how their community works, or
you're coming in
and not being
and unwilling.
Forthright.
Right. That's why it's wildly fragile. And Jesus had he had community skills. I mean, I think the Chosen, again, we've said this many times, has afforded us a chance to see what might it have looked like.
Right.
In this little village to village community, Jesus moving with his community of followers into these spaces. And I know we got the 12, but he sent out 72. I mean, pretty good posse rolling in to the outskirts of town, right? Hey, as the Chosen would say, hey, Jesus says, you guys set up camp here. I'm going to go in and I'll see you soon.
It's like Wallace, where are you going? I'm going to pick a fight. Yeah.
Yeah. And yet as they come and go and drop into these communities, I mean, I'm going to fast forward. That's what made Palm Sunday was all of these communities, all these Jewish communities within Roman occupied, right? Within the Roman occupied Middle East, they are going to Passover, this celebration, this significant declaration, holiday, if you will, of their community.
Right.
right? We have our calendars filled with the United States holidays that the community is, like you said earlier, the barbecue.
Yeah.
A barbecue is an event, not food. Well, you move far enough south, it's food. It doesn't always have to be an event, but that's my point is that that I think we see in The Chosen, Jesus coming in and is extremely disruptive to a couple communities.
To their community.
To the Jewish community at large, the Pharisaical community for sure,
Romans.
and then the Roman community, And so, and then you have this crossing lines, the centurion.
Yep.
Who, dude, this is not your, and that's how in The Chosen they respect, dude, this is not your community.
Right. Yeah.
Stay on your side.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? And there's, I think, something that again binds, can connect and bind in a beautiful way. His daughter's sick, and that was worth crossing any line.
Right. For the hope
from one community.
The hope of healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, community is that double-edged or the two-sided coin. It has incredible benefits of belonging, but it also has dangerous possibilities and repercussions if the leadership is not, selfless and caring and kind.
Right.
Or if the followership, we've had some things happen in the Zoweh community. It's like, yeah, he's wearing one of our shirts and man, that's not cool. Right. Not good. That's hard. How do we address that? And that's what I want to talk about in the next episode.
Sure.
Is what does it look like to live practically in community so that when the dangerous, stupid shiz happens, what happens next? Because that is really the significant part. Right. You've said it before about orange tape or orange cones or orange signs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, the red letters.
Red letters,
We usually hear red letter, we think of the Bible.
Yeah.
But in, the military, fire departments, when you're reading an instruction manual or some kind of guidelines, when it's in red, it means somebody died because they didn't listen to it. Or was severely injured.
Yeah, so they put a sign up, or they put cones out, or there's these, warning
Don't
things.
walk in front of this jet engine. Yeah,
you kind of should have known not to do that, but we're just going to put up the danger sign.
Right.
Because, we've farmers, right? We've learned a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
So we talked a bit about, the risk associated for somebody like from the perspective of joining a community, right? Because you kind of have to put it out there, will you let me in? Do you? And really goes back to, do you love me? Do you love what you see?
And those my point back to,
and you're risking judgment.
That best foot forward is often
there
happens, and you don't know that you're in a bad community until you've been in it.
Yeah. So from the other side,
or harmful or hurtful or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Which you touched on a little bit. What's the risk associated? Do you think? And I think we'll end this episode maybe with this one. What do you think? As the leader of a community, what are some of the risks associated with being, already in the community, welcoming other people in? And I'll just tee it off. The first one I think of, at every one of our encounter weekends, about half the guys that come are first-time guys. And so the risk for them and the risk for us as the leaders of the community that we're trying to create, the environment we're trying to create, is that they won't understand what we're talking about. So there's a language that we speak, right? And so when you're joining a community if you're not joining a community, but you're having people join your community, there's a risk associated in alienating new people
by the way you talk and the things you do, and not helping them to understand. Because there's words, there's a language we use
in any community.
In any community,
like who knew who Mookie Betts was?
Right, the Red Sox nation.
Except those who are lamenting that he's gone.
Right, and the Dodgers who are celebrating,
right?
Baseball
and other baseball people,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, the word that comes to mind that's really gives me it's a little bit of a nervy is control.
Mm-hmm.
So you're controlling the narrative, you're controlling the language, you're controlling the
a risky thing.
You're controlling the behavior. So what does it look like to have hopes and maybe some expectations of, hey, this is a library community. We don't yell in here, or hey, this is a swimming country club community. You don't, run with glass bottles on so you're not going to get away from some rules.
Right.
And I think that's
the boundaries associated with being
for protection and freedom.
Right.
Because the rules actually afford you that we've agreed in this community to live this way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and this is where we'll go in the next episode. What do you do when somebody colors outside the lines or tries to even introduce something new to a community like Jesus was doing and now it's on. I mean, who's right? Who's wrong? We have to end this. They can't be here anymore. They don't. I mean, we've got lots of stories of how rough and badly that goes, from race to economy to geography, sides of the tracks, who's entitled, who's not. I mean, community
in a much more in a minor sense. What happens to us at the weekend? Well, what you ought to do.
Yeah. And
there's a reason we don't do those things, and it's not the first time we've thought about it, right? Every once in a while, somebody comes up with a great idea. So being hopeful and open-hearted, there's a balance between control, right, and also just leading your community with an open heart.
Yeah. And the more people that are in it, right, the harder that becomes, the more challenging it is to, be kind while still embracing the things that make us us.
Right.
In terms of another word for community, it's us.
Yeah.
It's the us. And versus, that challenge of we and they, them.
Yeah.
It's,
not helpful. Yeah.
No, that gets
not
really,
a helpful posture.
That gets really, really, really challenging. So look forward. So we'll land this one.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about, what some stories of, community, faux pas and community worse than that in the next episode, maybe in the Zoweh, in the friendships and in the dynamic of our brotherhood and our marriages and all the different things that I think have given us samples of stories to say, this was.
Sounds vulnerable.
Yeah.
Sounds like vulnerability.
Because all of these communities, this is the thing to end with. All of these communities have history.
Oh yeah.
There's history books to all these communities, and if the stories are told, they're not all good, and not all of them. I mean, sometimes that's the end of a community, So anyway, looking forward to part 2. So thank you for joining us for the Exploring More podcast. I love the new look, Caleb. Feeling good about that, and look forward to seeing how how we move into this new season, the summer of 2023 with community. So
give us a like and a subscribe, share, and post, and help us be found all over your podcast platform of choice, and also YouTube and other places that we're at. That'd be great.
Yep. Quick infomercial before we go. Great job with the resources in King Me. It's fun to see King Me Books finding owners.
Flying out of here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And October 5th through the 8th is our next big encounter, our community, and those that we're kind of inviting in to learn how to walk intimately with God, to hear his voice, to enjoy his goodness. And so just want to put a plug in for that. Caleb, you can put that lower third and how to do all that.
Yeah, Zoweh.org/events.
And you can get all the information. But join us out in Sharp Top Cove where
Jasper,
Georgia, outside of Atlanta.
About an hour north of Atlanta. And look, it's not a free event.
Yeah.
Right? There is a cost associated with it, but we never want finances to be a reason that a man chooses not to come. We have an aid station for that reason.
Which is people in our community who have said we don't want people to not be able to go because of finances. We ask everybody to pony up something, put some skin in the game. But anyway, I hope we see them. Some of our listeners join us at the next Heart of Aware encounter.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah. Till next time. Look forward to continuing this conversation on community on the Exploring More podcast. Take care.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoweh.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoweh on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoweh on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.